Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Post. Happy New Year as we get ready for 2010. I'm Sid Rosenberg for OpenSports.com and the National Football Post. The 2009 fantasy season is in the books. So now let's welcome in my main man, Joe Fortenbaugh, the great fantasy expert at National Football Post, to hand out some postseason hardware. Joe, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the show.
Happy New Year to you too, Sid. Great season this year. A lot to talk about today.
Yes, and one little side note, your Philadelphia Eagles are about to get molested in Dallas this weekend. And I hate the Eagles and the Cowboys as a Giant fan, but I don't see any scenario where the Eagles walk out of Dallas with a win.
Well, thank you so much. It's always great to hear from a Giants fan who's not in the playoffs give his opinion on the playoffs. So thank you very much. We'll all keep that in mind.
I am bitter, no question about it. Some big seasons were had here, Joe, but only one player can be the most valuable. Joe, time to name your 2009 Fantasy MVP. The winner is...
No surprise here. Tennessee Titans running back Chris Johnson gets the MVP award this year. Number one in point production for fantasy running backs. Historic season in both the air game and the ground game. 2,500 total yards. That's an NFL record. Over 2,000 yards on the ground, 500 yards through the air. He's the first running back to ever do that. Chipped in 16 touchdowns. 5.6 yards per carry, Sid. That is amazing. This guy got it done in all phases of the offense. He's very patient, has great vision, gets behind his blocks, and when he gets out to the second level, he's gone. That open field speed is like nothing I've ever seen before. Johnson dominated week in and week out. He put up the yards. He put up the scores. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. The kid can do it all. He's going to be your number one pick next year. Chris Johnson all the way for MVP.
No argument there. By the way, amazingly, O.J. Simpson did it in 14 games. The next two awards can go hand in hand, Joe. The envelope, please, for the sleeper and waiver wire pickup of the year.
Sleeper of the year, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver Miles Austin. Through 4 games, Sid, this guy only had 4 receptions, so he was basically an afterthought in the Dallas offense. In addition, the Cowboys came into this year needing someone to step up as a vertical threat on the outside for quarterback Tony Romo. A lot thought it might be Roy Williams. He turned out to be a bust. Some thought Patrick Creighton might step up. He didn't get it done. Austin was the guy, when all of that was said and done, who really took the next step. And not only that, is become one of the most elite wide receivers in the NFL. Over 1,300 total yards, 1,300 receiving yards, I should say. That ranks third. 11 receiving touchdowns. That ranks third. No surprise that he's the third-ranked fantasy receiver this year. There was a stretch this year where Austin had 10 touchdowns in 10 games, and that led into the fantasy playoffs. This guy was very good for Tony Romo. He's only going to get better. Look for him to come off the board in the first 3 rounds next season. Waiver wire pick of the year. That's running back Jamal Charles from the Kansas City Chiefs. Through 10 weeks this season, up until week 10, never had more than 6 carries in a game. Once he got to that point, though, he exploded. Larry Johnson started the year as a starting running back. He got run out of town after being suspended. Charles stepped in and was unbelievably dynamic. Got it done in both phases of the offense. Put up over 1,100 yards on the ground, caught 40 passes, scored 8 touchdowns. And here's the true sign of a competitor. The Kansas City Chiefs season was over a long time before it even started. They were out of the hunt from the beginning. But with the final 4 games, Charles rushed for 658 yards and 4 touchdowns when it didn't even matter. That's a competitor. That's a guy you want on your team. He could be a top 10 pick next year.
I don't disagree. Had a big game against the Denver Broncos in the season finale a couple of days ago. Joe, Beanie Wells did enough down the stretch to get your vote for Rookie of the Year, just narrowly edging out Minnesota Viking Percy Harvin and Denver Bronco Noshawn Marino. But who takes home the trophy for Value Pick of the Year?
Charles was great off the waivers, but a value pick comes down to Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice. The greatest value pick in the draft, in my opinion, this past year. Rice, on average, in a 10-team league, was a 5th-round draft pick, but he ended the season as a top 5 fantasy running back. And if you play in a PPR league, his 78 receptions got him ranked even higher. He's right up at the top. This is a guy who very quietly, due to Chris Johnson's year, kind of fell underneath the radar, but he put up 2,000 yards of his own. Only got in the end zone 8 times this season. That's due a lot to Willis McGahee and LaRon McClain. They get a lot of the goal line red zone work, but The great thing about Rice, very great runner. He's got great balance, low center of gravity. He makes yards after contact. He can make plays in the passing game. He gets out to that second level and is very explosive. This is a guy on a young Baltimore offense that's going to continue to get better as the team gets better. 5th round pick last year, top 5 running back now. Look for him next year. He's going to come off the board in a hurry. Great value this season.
Yeah, he needs a big game this weekend against New England if the Ravens are going to get to the second round of the playoffs. I agree. Johnson and Austin also both earned first-team NFP All-Fantasy honors here, Joe. Adrian Peterson and Maurice Jones-Drew joined Johnson in the backfield. No explanation needed there. Austin, Andre Johnson, and Randy Moss are your wideouts at quarterback. A little bit of a surprise as Aaron Rodgers takes home the honor over Drew Brees and Peyton Manning. What about that, Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers had an outstanding season. All due respect to Peyton Manning, who's going to win the MVP, and Drew Brees, who set the record this season for completion percentage. But when all's said and done, Rodgers is your number one guy. Ranked 4th in the league with 4,400 passing yards, ranked 4th in touchdowns with 30. The quiet thing he did that not many people realize, led NFL quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns with 5. All this coming despite being sacked 50 times this season. This kid took it the next step this season. He's become very versatile in getting the ball down the field, spreading the ball to his receivers. That Green Bay passing attack has been outstanding. And keep in mind, only 7 interceptions this year for a guy who's constantly under heavy pressure. Aaron Rodgers has been outstanding. He's actually thrown touchdown passes in 15 of 16 games this year. Very consistent. He was the rock and cornerstone of many fantasy offenses. And you got him at a value, a much better price than you did in Manning, Brees, or Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is your first-team quarterback.
Yeah, by the way, since he replaced Brett Favre 2 years ago as a starting quarterback in Green Bay, both seasons, Aaron Rodgers threw for over 4,000 yards. For the rest of Joe's postseason awards, check out his columns at nfpost.com. They are great. Also, be sure to come back here for Thursday's show as we name our all-bust team for 2009. Today was the winners. Thursday, we'll do the losers. Joe, as always, fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sid. I'll talk to you Thursday.
Looking forward to that. Remember, you can also follow Joe on Twitter. He's at Joe Fortenbaugh. That's Fortenbaugh for more great fantasy updates and read his writing every day at nfpost.com. For Joe Fortenbaugh, I'm Sid Rosenberg. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you again Thursday right here for more fantasy coverage.